Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen and I'm here today with another top 10 video. This is a new little series that I've started. I've only done one of these so far, and that was of course my top 10 favorite books. Had to start with books. I will link that. But now for this top 10, we are branching out beyond the world of books. And this one is going to be my top 10 favorite sitcoms, which is why we are out here in the living room today. I felt like this would be a more appropriate background for talking about sitcoms. And I will say, it was definitely way harder to pick my top 10 favorite sitcoms than it was to pick my top 10 favorite books. But jumping right in at number 10, my 10th favorite sitcom is Grace and Frankie, which is available for streaming on Netflix. For those of you that don't know, Grace and Frankie is about two older ladies who find out that their husbands, who are business partners, are cheating on them with each other. And so they both divorce their husbands and they move in together into their shared beach house that they have. But these two are polar opposites and they kind of have to learn how to get along. This is one that my mom introduced me to. She really liked it and we weren't so sure if I would like it since it's not really about my age group, but it is such a fun show. Once I started watching, I just watched straight through all the way. It was such a good time. I really like both of the main characters. They're so fun, and all of the other characters are fun as well. My favorite character is Grace's oldest daughter. She is so mean, but in a funny way, and sarcastic and hilarious. And actually, after Grace and Frankie, I moved right on to the Kaminsky method, which I feel like is kind of just the boy version of Grace and Frankie. And that one was a lot of fun too, but it did not make this list. And then I recommended that one to my mom and she watched that one, so now we have both watched Grace and Frankie and the Kaminsky method, and they're both a good time. Moving right along, number 9 on my list is Rules of Engagement, which was actually a late add to the list. I made the list. I had completely forgotten about the existence of Rules of Engagement while making the list, but then a few days later I saw a commercial for a show, a sitcom called United States of Owl, which is starting soon or has already started, but like it just started, and it has Timmy from Rules of Engagement. And I was like, hey, Timmy. And then I was like, hey, Rules of Engagement. And I had to adjust my list because this show was a great time. I haven't seen it in quite a while. I'm not like currently rewatching it or anything, obviously, since I forgot about it. So it's one of the few ones on the list that is not something that I like currently watch, but it was just so good back in the day. But for those of you who have not seen this kind of older sitcom, it is kind of just about two married couples who live in the same apartment building. I've lied. One married couple that lives in this apartment building. The other couple are engaged. So the kind of an older couple who have been married for like 10 years or so, and then a couple who have just gotten engaged, and they kind of learn from each other about relationships. The character Audrey was from another old sitcom from my childhood, Grounded for Life, that I really loved. And yeah, it just had a lot of characters that I really loved. I loved David Spade's character, but then I also loved, oh, I've forgotten his first name, but he's Hudson. He's Kate Hudson's brother. I loved his character so much. And Timmy was also great. I mean, all the characters were just great. Usually, I feel like on sitcoms you can pick one character that's your favorite, but on this show it's kind of, they make it difficult because they're all really great. So now at number 8 on my list, which is kind of a tie. It's two shows that are currently on FX, and I think they both only have one season out so far. And me and my boyfriend started watching them together at the same time, so I kind of just associate them with each other even though they're not the same at all. So number 8 is What We Do in the Shadows and Dave. So I'll talk about What We Do in the Shadows first. This one is a office style sitcom. The characters talk to the camera and they're vampires. So it's kind of a documentary crew following around vampires in modern day New York but they're still behaving as though it is the like 1600s or whatever. And it's really hilarious. It was created by Taika Waititi, which is the director of Thor Ragnarok, if you are unaware, and also Jojo Rabbit. And me and my boyfriend love Taika, and we love this show. And then Dave is a show about the rapper Lil Dicky. It's kind of loosely based on the beginning of his career. If you don't know Lil Dicky, go listen to his music. It's also hilarious. But yeah, this show is very funny. It's got very raunchy jokes, but then also there's kind of a real heart to the show in Dave's relationship with his girlfriend. They're just such a sweet couple, and they are a joy to watch together. So then number 7 on my list is The Good Place, which wrapped up like maybe a year ago, and it's such a unique show. It is a show in which these 4 characters have died and they go to the good place. And it's really kind of a show all about how to be a good person, really, and to be a person with good moral fiber, I guess. And it kind of discusses how you go about getting into the good place, and also kind of gets into how that seems less and less possible. But yeah, it's a show with such a unique concept that they were able to do comedy that I feel like hasn't been done before. Like, they're able to play with such interesting concepts because of the premise of the show, and they do it in a really funny way, even though like talking about how to be a good person doesn't sound funny, but they make it funny. So that one got onto the list partly just because of what a good and unique premise they had and the way that they were able to play with that premise. So then next on my list, number 6, is another very feel-good sitcom, and that is Atypical, which is on Netflix on streaming. And this one is about a boy with autism who is ready to fall in love, and it sort of follows him and his family throughout their just kind of regular lives, and it's just such a sweet show. The main character is so sweet. He's got a really funny friend. His sister seems mean, but really secretly she's sweet too. And yeah, this is like my go-to feel-good show for sure. And then getting into the top 5, and I own all or part of all of the shows on my top 5. I'm working on getting the complete set for all of them. But number 5 is The Big Bang Theory. Obviously, this was like the most popular sitcom on television while it was on television. Me and my boyfriend are currently rewatching this because he has never seen it all the way through. He's just seen episodes here and there. And yeah, we just finished season 9. We need to order the next season still. But yeah, I really appreciated this one when it first came out for the fact that it kind of has fan culture in it, nerd culture in it. This is one where it's easy to pick a favorite character, Sheldon, obviously. I always liked that Penny was from Nebraska. Don't get a whole lot of Nebraska shout outs in television. And yeah, since this one is completed and I have watched it from beginning to end, this is the first one where I'll talk about how it ended. So, spoiler alert, of course. I didn't love how this show ended. I think it's nice that Sheldon got the Nobel Prize, and I think they had like some flashbacks in that episode where he gets the Nobel Prize that were really cute. I think it flashed back to like all the characters as kids, and he was talking about how he would one day meet them and it would have this big effect on his life. So that part was really good. I like where we left off with really everyone. The part that annoyed me was there are 2 characters on this show who are women who did not want children. Bernadette and Penny. Bernadette ends up having kids with Howard, and I think it sort of just happens and they go with it, and it's fine. But then they have Penny get pregnant in like the very last episode of the last season, because I mean, apparently we can't just end a show without every female having children. Amy doesn't technically by the end of the show, but over on Young Sheldon, it's revealed that they have kids. But Amy, she wanted kids all along, so that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, it was just annoying that they had to have Penny be pregnant in like the very final episode. And then also how they handled it was also terrible. It's like Leonard is all excited, doesn't take a single second to consider the fact that Penny does not want children. And then, so Sheldon doesn't congratulate them, and Leonard gets pissed. And Sheldon says, well, I wasn't sure if I should because I know that Penny doesn't want children. So Sheldon is being considerate about Penny's feelings, which Leonard is not as her husband. And Leonard is still just mad at Sheldon for this. And Penny is just expected to be just raving with excitement despite the fact that she does not want kids. So yeah, it was just kind of an annoying ending for me, but obviously did not ruin the show for me. It's still my number 5 favorite. I just wanted to rant about that, I guess. And then also, I want to talk about Young Sheldon because it is like the best spin-off show I think I've ever seen. Like, usually reboots and spin-offs don't go well. I'm going to be talking about one that wasn't great a little later on this list. But Young Sheldon is such a cute show. It's so good. It's so heartwarming. I love it. Probably almost as much as The Big Bang Theory. Like, Big Bang is funnier, but Young Sheldon is just such a sweet show. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that one as well. And it kind of shares that number 5 spot. So then number 4 on my list, for which I do own the complete series, and I just finished rewatching it a couple weeks ago, and that is How I Met Your Mother. The thing that I love most about this show is all of the running jokes. I love a good running joke, and How I Met Your Mother is full of them. I love the slap bet. I love please. I love Robin Sparkles very much. And yeah, I also love kind of the setup of having little, not really glimpses of the mother, but like seeing her umbrella and stuff like that that's sprinkled throughout the show. That is so fun for me. And then of course, I love Barney. He's for sure easily my favorite character. He's a terrible person. I will get that out of the way right away. He's terrible, but he's hilarious. Spoiler alert. When they fix him and have him turn into a good guy, he's still not a good guy. He basically just starts berating random strangers in bars about how they're dressed and stuff, which is also not good. But yeah, what can I say? He's hilarious. I love the bro code, love the playbook. It's terrible, but hilarious. I also really like Barney and Robin's relationship, or at least I understand it. Like, they set it up in seasons 1 and 2, and you can just totally see it. And I love Robin so much. Can we talk about Robin, a character who doesn't want kids and by the end of the series does not have kids? It's so great, so refreshing. But then we also have to talk about how the series ended. It was a controversial ending. I liked it better than The Big Bang Theory. I didn't mind it, honestly. Like, it was okay. Is the mother a plot device? Yes. Does it kind of seem like Ted was really just waiting for Robin all along, even when he was with the mother? A little bit. But I don't know. It didn't bother me. Everyone kind of knew he was ending up with Robin anyways, and they just went there with it. The speech that Ted gives at the very end, I think is good. And so yeah, the ending, it doesn't bother me that much. I'm one of the people that it didn't bother me. My boyfriend, who kind of caught a few episodes here and there as I was going through it just now on my rewatch, and then very specifically watched the final episode, he did not love it. He didn't like it much. But yeah, this is just one of my favorites. Very glad to have the complete set. Love all the running jokes. And love how they set things up like season 1 that don't pay off until the final season. I love stuff like that. I live for that stuff. Moving on to the top 3. Number 3 on the list is Will and Grace. Will and Grace is one of my classics from childhood. I have watched this through from beginning to end. I know I have, but I'm not sure how. Maybe on streaming? I don't own the entire series. I only own season 1, but I know I've watched it through from beginning to end. Favorite character here is obviously Jack. He's hilarious. He might possibly be my favorite character in all of the series on this list. I really love Jack. Jack and Karen together are hilarious. Jack and Will are adorable. I love their friendship. But yeah, this one is kind of a basic Friends in New York setup, much like How I Met Your Mother and Friends. But our two main characters are Will and Grace, of course, and they have been best friends since college. They met on the first day of college because they lived on opposite sides of the hall in their dorms. And yeah, now they're in their later 20s, done with college, living together in an apartment. And like a lot of these shows, it's kind of them navigating relationships. There's a bit of a strain on their relationships because they are such close friends. And this was a little bit of a groundbreaking show at the time. It was one of the first shows to feature two openly gay characters and have them be main characters and not just friend character or the butt of the jokes kind of characters. And I loved how this show ended. This is one of my favorite sitcom endings, kind of tied for number one for my favorite ending for a sitcom. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna reveal how it ends. But it ends with Will and Grace have gotten married, had kids, kind of drifted apart, don't communicate much anymore, they're adults. Kind of what happens at the end of a lot of sitcoms, or at least a lot of sitcoms end with the group, they're going to be drifting apart, and that's kind of like, oh, this show is ending because they're all adults now. But in this one, they jump ahead years later. Will and Grace haven't talked in forever, and their kids are going to college, and they move in across the hall from each other in the dorms, and they meet each other. Just the way that Will and Grace met. One of my favorite endings. I really loved it. Yeah, this is, again, just one of my all-time favorites. I wish that this was one that just played on TV. You could find it on some channel at any given time of day, all the time, much like Friends or The Office, but it's not really one of those shows, but I think it deserves to be. I'm sure you can find it on TV sometimes, just not on a 24-hour loop like Friends and The Office. But speaking of Friends, that is number 2 on my list. This is the show that, I mean, this is partly just because it does play on TV 24/7, but this one I can just turn on if it's on TV, just have it play in, love it. But surprisingly, this is a show that I have never watched all the way through from beginning to end. I own the first 2 seasons right now, and I'm actually currently watching season 2. I got this one, season 1 for Christmas last year, and then season 2 this year, so slowly working my way through it. But yeah, I've never watched it from beginning to end. I know that there are episodes I haven't seen because I know what some of those episodes are. I have never seen the Brad Pitt episode. It's never been playing on TV when I'm watching. So yeah, it's number 2 on my list, and it's one of the few on the list that I have not watched all the way through from beginning to end. But yeah, it's just a classic. I think it's a lot of people's favorite, but it definitely was the number 1 show when it was on, and it's carried that on kind of more strongly than a lot of other shows. It's kind of, I feel like Friends and The Office are like the 2 shows. So yeah, what I'm saying is I'm a basic bitch. I would have to say for this show, Phoebe is my favorite character, which I don't think is the most common character to pick. I think a lot of people really like Chandler. Yeah, I would say Phoebe, and then Joey is like a close second. And I ship Phoebe and Joey so hard. Let's talk about the relationships in Friends, because they're not great. Of course, there's Rachel and Ross, which I don't really care much about Rachel and Ross either way. They're fine. Same goes for Chandler and Monica. They're kind of a boring couple, like they're there, it's fine. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I think my ideal relationship setup in Friends would be Chandler and Monica can happen exactly as they do because it's fine. Ross and Rachel, honestly, I think it would have been great. I mean, I can see how it wouldn't have worked just because people did ship them so hard, and it's just kind of, you expect them to end up together. But I think it would have been great if when Ross started dating Charlie, if that would have worked out, because they were great together. And I think it would have been great if Ross and Rachel never happened, like never dated even once. Or maybe went on like 1 date And Rachel was like, no. And Ross eventually meets Charlie, falls for her, and realizes, oh, I was putting Rachel on this inhuman pedestal, and I don't know, just like if he just would have ended up with Charlie and it not be like this thing of like him pining after Rachel and eventually he gets her. We've seen it. It's not that great of a storyline. And then more importantly, the couple that actually matters, Joey and Phoebe, who never actually happened in the show. We got Joey and Rachel, that train wreck, but no Joey and Phoebe, when clearly they have such sweet moments together. I don't know if anyone has noticed this, but they have such sweet, adorable, cute moments together, and I ship them so hard. So I think it would have been really great. Joey had his whole, you know, player vibe going on, but then one day, maybe something sad happens, maybe Phoebe comforts him, and he realizes, oh my gosh, the girl of my dreams has been here all along. And they're the real couple of the show. That's my dream sequence for the Friends relationships. But that being said, it's fine the way it went. It's a sitcom. We're here for the laughs, and it's very funny. I love it. And the ending, it was an ending, it was fine. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other on the Friends ending. Putting all the keys down was cute. I got off the plane was a very dramatic line. If they have to end up together, it's a kind of a good way to do it. Although she is kind of throwing away her dream job, apparently. And yeah, this was like a fine ending. On to the #1 show on my list. I think everyone is in for a big surprise on my #1 favorite show. It's a weird one, I'll admit. My #1 favorite sitcom of all time is Boy Meets World, the Disney Channel classic. I have watched Boy Meets World straight through from beginning to end more times than any other show, partly because it is so hard to find that there were times in my life, like as a teenager, where I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to find Boy Meets World on television anymore, or whatever, I won't be able to get it somehow. I was very scared of this, of like never being able to watch it again. And so I would seek it out and I would watch it all the way through. This happened like maybe 2 or 3 times. And then eventually I bought it all on DVD and now I'm safe. And now also Disney Plus exists. But yeah, I just love this show so much. I love all the seasons. I love when they're little babies. I love when they're grown-ass adults. I do somewhat prefer the later seasons, but I love the early seasons too. I love Mr. Feeney. He's so wise. Our children need his wisdom growing up in this world. I don't know what kids do without him nowadays. I love later seasons Eric. I like all seasons Eric, but I especially love dumb Eric. This happens with like characters in a couple TV shows where they just get really dumb as the seasons go on, and I love it. It's hilarious. I love the Corey and Topanga relationship. That was relationship goals for me as a child. I love Sean. He was definitely my favorite character growing up. I thought he was so cool. I had a huge crush on Sean. I loved his relationship with Angela. I wish that would have worked out. And yeah, this is just my favorite show. They get into some really deep topics for a Disney show. I'm always amazed when I watch it because there's so much stuff in this show that would not make it onto Disney Channel nowadays, which I think is what makes this show stand the test of time, whereas there are no other Disney shows that I would watch as an adult. And then yeah, this is my other favorite ending that I was talking about back when I was talking about Will and Grace. I love how Boy Meets World ends. Very specifically, the final scene in the classroom with Mr. Feeney. The scene where Corey talks to his little brother is a little bit awkward, but the final scene with Mr. Feeney is so beautiful. I'm gonna walk us through it. So, they're all in the classroom saying goodbye to Mr. Feeney for the last time. I think they're all moving away, as per usual for the ending of a sitcom. And they all say their goodbyes, and then Eric is like, tell us you love us, Mr. Feeney, which of course Mr. Feeney won't do because he's a teacher and he's a professional. He's not gonna tell students that he loves them. So they all leave, and then the classroom is empty, and Mr. Feeney is all, class dismissed. I love you all. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. So yeah, I could rave and rave about this show, but I'm gonna stop. So yeah, that was my top 10 favorite sitcoms of all time. This is the 5 that I own. Let me know down below some of your favorite sitcoms and why they're your favorites. I hope you enjoyed this list. Next month, I'll be talking about my top 10 favorite TV dramas. Looking forward to that. And on to the quote for today's video. And this quote is from Dr. Seuss and is maybe kind of appropriate for how I've been talking about the endings of all these shows. But it goes, "Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened." Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.